So a few things about strengthening the lower extremities. If you're going to address the calves, you got to address the whole kinetic chain here. So we're going to address the lower quadrant primarily here. We addressed the abdominals earlier with just a prep exercise to stimulate the deep abs. This next series of exercises, I'm going to start with the calf muscles, but I'm going to work my way up to the gluteals. So the calves, you can do seated calf raises and you can do standing calf raises. The seated calf raises are going to be great for the deeper muscle, the calf muscles, and the standing calf raises are going to be great for the larger calf muscles. Now really you want to make sure, it's fine, even if you do have tight calves, that does not mean you have strong calves. So you still may need to do quite a bit of strengthening with them. The thing I'll tell you is, you know, it's pretty simple in theory to lower and lift your heels off the ground for a calf raise. One thing I'll tell you though is when you're doing these calf raises, try to relax your toes. Don't grip your toes while you're coming up and down and working your calves. So if you're seated and you're at the gym, let's say, and you're doing the seated calf raise machine, one thing you want to do is try to relax your toes and then lift your heels up and then slowly lower them down. Try not to roll to the inside or to the outside of the foot. Feel both sides of the foot evenly as you push through and lower down, as you push through the ball of your foot and lower down the heels. Probably want to go down twice as slow as you go up, just to stimulate more control and get more of that eccentric activity out of the musculature. That's where you're going to get strongest anyway, so I would encourage you to do that. So keep in mind what's going on with your toes when you do those calf raises. I'm not going to demonstrate them right here, but those are just a few things to keep in mind. Another thing you're going to want to keep in mind are your hips. Now, the gluteals are very important, and I'll demonstrate how to do a nice gluteal exercise, but the sides of the hips often get ignored. Now when you're running, this is super important because if you are standing on one leg, all of your weight is your weight shift is dependent on how strong and stable those hip abductors are. Okay, so these are the muscles on the side of your hips. So a couple things you can do. Number one, you could do a side lying leg lift, which is probably the most basic one. So what you would do is you would lie on your side, and what I would tell you to do is bend your bottom knee in, right? And this will protect your back a little. It's okay to have a little bit of a rounded back here. And then what you want to do is just take a nice inhale, and exhale, you're just going to lift the leg up slowly, and then you're going to lower down slowly. Now one thing I'll tell you to do here is almost imagine rolling your foot so that your toe is pointed down when you lift the leg up. That helps stimulate a little bit more of this, what's called your glute medius and minimus here, because they actually assist with internally rotating the femur. So if you lift up and imagine just kind of turning in a little bit as opposed to turning out. A lot of people want to go for big range, so they end up turning out to get that range. But what I'll tell you is it's more important that you just work into the proper musculature here. So as you lift your foot off the mat, what you want to do is do it on the exhale so you can get those abs going first. And if you struggle with getting the abs, or you want to really make sure you don't use your back on this at all, tilt your pelvis a little bit posteriorly. So imagine just kind of pulling your pubic bone towards your nose a little bit. And then use a balloon to start your exhale to ensure that you have those lower abs activated. Then what you're going to want to do is imagine reaching your heel towards the wall. So I'm going to imagine sending energy out of the heel this way, and then I'm just going to lift up. I don't need to come up high, right? And then I lower down slowly. Imagine your big toe being the last thing to leave the mat. So as you come up, all right? And you'll do that maybe 5 to 10 times. And you can do about 3-4 sets, switching sides every time. Really be careful that the leg doesn't come forward when you come up, because that's letting you know that you're working into that TFL, right? And the TFL, which stands for tensive fascial lata, what it does is it flexes the hip and it abducts the hip, but it also attaches to the IT band. And if it gets super tight, it's going to cause that lateral knee pain known as IT band syndrome. So try to keep the leg back in line with the body when you lift it up. It's okay to let it turn in, but try not to let it come forward. All right? If you start to feel pain through the back, maybe you have a little bit of what's called QL dominance or quadratus lumborum dominance, the back extensor and lateral flexor here of the spine. What I would tell you to do is round the back a little bit and focus on reaching the leg. If it still feels like your back is getting a good majority of work, or if it's causing any pain, then don't do this exercise from the side. It's better, you can strengthen these muscles other ways, but the side may be a little bit too heavy on the back. So that's what I'm going to show you with this next exercise. It can be done from a 4-point kneeling position. It's a little bit different and it's kind of hard to show on camera, so I apologize if the concept isn't quite clear by the way I demonstrate it. But all you need is, this could be an encyclopedia or something, again, a dictionary. This just is a stiff foam pad that I have. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on all fours, okay, and then I put the pad under one knee. Then I'm going to spread my hands out. Now this is just for the purposes of the video so you can see what's going on here. I'm going to round my back and tuck my tail underneath. You could most certainly do this with the balloon as well to make sure that you use your abs appropriately. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push into this left knee and I'm just going to shift and rotate my pelvis to lift my right leg. But I'm going to be doing it from this hip. Okay, so just take an inhale. And then I'll exhale, I'll lift up slowly, but that lifting is coming from my hip. It's not coming from my back, and it's not coming from me pushing into my hands. And then I just slowly lower down. And I lift up slowly, and I slowly lower down. And notice that I'm not shifting to the side like this. That's a cheat move, and you really won't feel anything if you do that. You want to imagine your legs like two pistons here. So when you lift up slowly, your back stays round. You want to make sure it doesn't arch the other way. Keep the tail tucked underneath and push that left knee down without shifting over and without putting too much pressure in your hands. And then slowly lower down. Lift up slowly and slowly lower down. Up slowly, slowly lower down. And you could even lift up and then try to keep coming up higher and then slowly lower down. If you want, you could put even higher bricks underneath the leg, but you're really going to feel this side hip start to cook, and that's a good thing. You have a lot of mobility at your hip when your hips are flexed like this, so it's a nice exercise, and it helps to strengthen the sides of your hips without getting into your back. The roundness of your back helps ensure that quadratus lumborum or your back extensors aren't taking over there. If that doesn't feel comfortable, I would say do the side lying one, and if both of those don't feel comfortable, what I would say is you could use a band of some sort to kind of wrap around your leg, like a TheraBand, and put it around your foot to hold on to your leg, or to hold up here to help you lift the leg up, to take some of the weight off the side of the hip and off the back. That's always an alternative. But I would do, you could do 3 to 4 sets on each side, and 5 to 10 repetitions per set.